about that. M-rated, 101 minutes, sensitive, heartfelt, naturalistic film by a debut writer and director called Charlotte Wells. A beautifully reflective piece concerning an 11-year-old girl called Sophie, played by Frankie Corio, and the last holidays that she took with her father Callum, played by Paul Mescal, about 20 years older than him, and that was taken 20 years older than her, rather, 2 decades ago. So this was a holiday they took way back when. And the pair travels from Scotland to a fading resort in Turkey. They swim, they sunbathe, they play pool, they go to a Turkish bath, they go to a mud bath, they read, they listen to an old crooner, they attend a karaoke night, they watch endless paragliders overhead, of course, and more. So they just do what people do on holidays. Callum, who practices Tai Chi, is separated from Sophie's mum, but appears to have a good relationship with her, at least what you can tell over the telephone. Sophie, played as an adult in a few scenes by Celia Ralston Hall, reflects on the shared joy and private melancholy of that final hurrah, that holiday that she took with her father. Memories, real and imagined, fill the gaps between that which is captured on home video, and there's a lot of home video in this movie, as Sophie tries to reconcile the father that she knew, who was loving and idealistic, with the man that she did not know. And as a world of adolescence creeps into focus, beyond her eye, Callum struggles under the weight of life outside fatherhood, although we aren't told what that is. We just see him breaking down on a number of occasions and then going to excess on other occasions. Now, this won the French Touch Jury Prize at Cannes, the Cannes Critics Week in 2022. I did not find it hard to see why. Semi-autobiographical work. I thought the writing by Charlotte Wells was superb. And just a personal note, Charlotte Wells' parents were quite young when she was born, and growing up her father would often be mistaken for her brother, although he never seemed to mind, and that's also captured in the film. So in creating the work, Wells reminisced about her own adolescence, about her parents and her dad in particular, and that process of reflection while writing lent a retrospective gaze to the script. I thought the performances were quite extraordinary and almost incomprehensible to me that Frankie Corio had never acted before. I thought she was breathtaking, so expressive, so real as Sophie. And I thought that Paul Mescal also brought nuance to his representation of a man who clearly has his issues. And for him, for Callum, the character, vitally important that Sophie knows he's there for her now and in the future. And Mescal is nominated for Best Actor Oscar. So I thought Corio should also have been in her category. So that was my thought. Greg King, what did you think of Aftersun?
This is a sort of sensitive piece, as you said, Alex. Slow burn, more of a mood piece there, where sometimes you're not exactly sure what's happened to during this holiday that has triggered these memories for Sophie there. But it's well shot, I thought. You know, the atmospheric cinematography, also the sort of colour palette that they use there is quite nostalgic there. I agree that the performances of the two leads are quite strong, very subtle and nuanced, and look of Turkey there as well. It was shot on location there, sort of gives it another ambience as well. It's one of those films I think you've got to go back a second time just to appreciate and get some of those nuances clear in your head.
Yeah, probably. Jacqui, what did you think?
Go back and see it the second time. I value my 3 hours of life more than that when you take into account driving there and back. Aftersun just did nothing for me. I'm so sorry. I saw all the rave reviews. I was so looking forward to it. I didn't get it for me. It wasn't even pretty to look at. Nothing happened. And it was jerky cam, airy-fairy, arty-farty, and I kept waiting for something of significance to actually happen, or anything to actually happen.
Hang on, this woman who watches grass grow, what are we talking here? I mean, that's the point of the movie. It was naturalistic, it was realistic. Did you not feel that?
Well, it wasn't naturalistic and realistic. It was it was Jerky Cam kids' own home video footage interspersed with grainy film of nothing happening. And I just didn't, it did nothing for me.
No, look, I love your contrary views, Jacqui. I think that's why you're invaluable in this.
I'll tell you where it completely lost me, and I think it was probably about 20 minutes in or half an hour in. God, it could have been 3/4 of the way through, who knows? Because there was no real narrative, so it was hard to kind of pinpoint where anything happened because nothing happened. But it lost me at the slow pan over a skirting board while we could hear Callum brushing his teeth in the background.
Right. Okay. Well,
and I'm like, why are they? What is the significance of this? There was none. Well, it didn't.
You know, I mean, home video, jerky cam, as you call it. I mean, that's, people capture all sorts of things.
Is there anything more boring than watching other people's jerky cam home videos? That's my point, Alex.
Well, Peter, who's the other contrary member of this team, I reckon you're going to like this. Go on, prove me wrong. I reckon you will have enjoyed this movie. Go for it.
I did enjoy this movie. I think it was actually quite a superb representation of fragmentary memories of a woman reflecting back on her childhood experiences, either imagined or real, with her father. And it's also interesting to note that apart from the filmmaking style, which Charlotte Wells won the BAFTA for Best Debut Feature, quite rightly, because it was such a superb film, is the issue of mental illness, which seems to crop up in this film as well as Empire of Light. And we get a lot of hints in the film that the girl's father is not well. We see him crying in one stage. We see him in difficult circumstances very briefly. If we put all of those aspects together, it is also that fragmentary notion of having a parent who is perhaps both positive and effusive at some stages, but also quite disturbed and unhappy at other stages. So I think what Charlotte Wells has done is beautifully represent that in this film by using that issue of fragmentary memories, of handheld camera, of rather interesting editing, which works to the film's favour. And the music of the period was used very effectively as well. This is a really superb production. I first saw this at the British Film Festival last year, and it blew me away as certainly the best film of last year's festival, and I'm so glad it's getting a release. It is an excellent film.
Yeah, well, there really is joy and wonder in that relationship between father and daughter, which is exactly what Wells wanted to capture. And it was really important for Callum, the character, to enunciate that Sophie should feel comfortable in the knowledge she can talk with him about anything. And a lot of this is left unsaid. That's the nature of this film. It's up to us, the audience, to interpret. I mean, it's not clear until late in the piece of the time frame between the events captured and where Sophie's at in the present day. Having said that, that device used by Charlotte Wells, I thought worked perfectly. What did you think, Dave?
I love this film. I thought it was such an amazing screenplay, and I'm glad Peter mentioned the soundtrack as well, because I collect soundtracks, and one of the things I notice quite often with filmmakers with soundtracks is they'll have every character in the movie listening to the same genre of music. Well, my wife and I don't even listen to the same genres of music, and the soundtrack here worked so well because they had pop songs being listened to by Sophie, whereas Callum was listening to more alternative songs. And also, thankfully, Charlotte Wells is a smart enough filmmaker to know that if you're a real fan of a band, you don't just listen to their hit singles. So the soundtrack here, she's really dug deep and tried to imagine what kind of music her characters would listen to. And I think that just goes along with the naturalistic feel of this film. I think it's actually kind of criminal that Frankie Corrao also didn't get an Oscar nomination, because I thought she was amazing in this film. Like you said, this is her first film, and her and Paul Mescal come together as a duo in this film as far as I'm concerned. So I think this is a beautiful film. It's a coming-of-age film. It's a film that makes the the audience think a little bit, but I thought it was and is one of the best films of this year.
Isn't it interesting? Because that's what I was going to finish with. I reckon it's one of the films of the year. Genuine piece of movie magic. Yeah, it's for selective tastes. I get all of that. It's slow moving, but it's authentic. It's emotionally resonant. Jacqui, I'm just wondering, having heard our effusive praise of this particular movie, would you consider going to see it again? Because, there's a lot there that obviously didn't move you the first time.
No, Alex, because I already had read of the film and the praises, and I waited for it and I was watching for it as I was in the cinema looking at the film. I was searching for this in the film, and it just did not connect with me. Not at all.
Fair enough. Perhaps your expectations were sort of set too high. I don't know.
Maybe, but there was nothing in it for me, really. It was a mood piece, but I think Greg called it a slow burn, but I couldn't call it a slow burn because there was actually no fire in it anywhere. So,
well, Aftersun is M-rated, runs for 101 minutes, and let's go from tallest to shortest. The rest of us are going to sort of think highly of it. So, Dave, a mark out of 10.
9.
Mm-hmm. Peter?
Definite 9 out of 10 from me.
9 out of 10 from me as well. Greg, you'll be a bit lower?
Yeah, probably about 6 out of me. I'm still scratching my head over that final scene there, trying to work out what that all meant.
That was her last memory of him.
Yes.
Yeah, I got that, but he walks through the door and all these cameras flash. I just wondering what that was all about.
Oh, no idea.
Yeah, see?
I know, but I'll tell you off air, Greg.
Okay.
Oh, do you, Dave? So you see, why would you only know this because you have to go and research it? Did you know yourself or did you research it? Actually, is the question.
I interviewed the director.
Okay, so do we all need to individually go and interview a director or Google what does this mean to... Because the only reason I could answer your question, Greg, was because I immediately came home and Googled, okay, what does Aftersun mean?
In fairness, I had a theory what I thought, and I put that theory to her during the interview, and she said, yes, that's what it was.
Very good. So, yes, okay.
Accepted.
We'll have to speak to Dave off air. So, right, Jacqui, score out of 10.
Oh, you're going to hate me.
No, you're going to fail it. I know that, but go for it.
I gave it a 3.
OMG. All right. Good.